Crown Princess of Norway was recently arrested for assault and physical damage to property. And additional charges have now been added, including making threats and stealing a scooter. Yes, oh yes, the case against Marius Borg Høiby continues to grow. And in fact, it looks like former girlfriends are also coming out and sharing their own experiences with him after a drunken and cocaine fueled attack against his girlfriend, although she doesn't really consider herself his girlfriend now or maybe even before. This case continues to compound and continues to look bad for the Norwegian royal family. And it is a warning to the rest of Europe. They have all been watching the chaos and the unraveling of the relationship between the British royals and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But this case in Norway, I feel like is more egregious in some ways. Obviously, the charges are incredibly serious, but you also have this very, very complex dynamic that is unique because it was very cool. The Crown Prince of Norway, the future king, decided to marry a single mother with a young son named Marius. And while he was royal adjacent, he was never really part of the royal family. He got a lot of perks and apparently maybe had been incredibly spoiled, resulting in the chaos that is unfolding now. And so there's a lot of interesting perspectives from Norway. So if you haven't heard much about this story, I'm going to go into the details of the case and what is going on right now. And has this negatively impacted the Norwegian royal family? In fact, it has. In fact, their favorabilities have dropped by about 20 points. So this is having a really big impact, including an upcoming wedding that I will also be covering in another video. So let's get into the case of Marius. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany and I provide you all compelling royal commentary. So if you want to smash that subscribe button, I would absolutely love and adore to have you back. All right, so this video is going to be probably a bit more serious than some of the others because these are very, very serious charges. And this is a very serious situation going on right now. While I'm not as familiar with the Norwegian royals in some way, what I generally know is that the king is well liked. He's pretty laid back. He had to wait several years to be able to marry his now wife, Sonia, because she was from a middle class family. His father wanted him to marry a princess. And so he waited, finally got to marry his now queen, Sonia. They seem to have a rock solid marriage. But when it comes to their two children, you could say things got a little interesting. So we have their firstborn child, which is Princess Martha Louise, who will this weekend be marrying a shaman who apparently is a friend to the stars, also HIV positive, formerly engaged to a man, and just all around sort of hinky figure who tells children that they gave themselves cancer. Yes, oh yes. We'll be doing a whole different video on that subject. And so she also was previously married to an artist named Ari. And unfortunately, he did end his own life a couple of years ago, which was very devastating to the family. And actually, as we'll find out, Marius as well. And she herself is a little loosey-goosey, you could say. She talks to angels. She apparently there is a Nazi soldier, because obviously the Nazis occupied Norway for a period of time during World War II. Apparently there was a Nazi officer who ended his own life in her room that she stayed in the palace, and she sees his ghost every once in a while, stuff like that. So she's a little odd. She, in fact, had to step back from any royal roles that she had, which were few and far between at that point because she was marrying the shaman guy direct, and many were questioning, obviously, her judgment, which continues to go on. And it was made apparent to her from her family and everything that she could not move forward, especially commercializing off her royal titles. So you'll see a lot of comparisons between Harry and Meghan a bit and the shaman and the princess. And then we also have Crown Prince Haakon, who is actually going to be the future king of Norway. Apparently, I was reading an article recently talking about how Martha Louise had the opportunity at one point to maybe make her feelings known that she could take the place as queen. I think everybody's breathing a sigh of relief that that did not happen. But Haakon ended up dating and marrying Mette-Marit. And she had a bit of a drug connection. And so there were a lot of questions about her suitability for the role. Obviously, she was a mother with a young child. She never married the father of her child, Marius. I mean, it's really cool that he married a single mom. I think that's lovely. But there were also some questions about her past and her suitability for the role. And I think all of those questions in the past, and that you had this wedding coming up, that everything kind of exploded this month is a bit crazy because As far as I was aware, Marius, he seemed nice. He seemed lovely. He seemed, I know some people disagree, but handsome to me, and that he was a great big brother to Princess Ingrid Alexandra, his younger sister. She, in fact, complimented him and their younger brother during her 18th birthday celebrations and everything. But as it turns out, things were apparently not so good behind the scenes. In fact, Marius maybe had been struggling with drugs for years and wasn't really getting the help he needed or maybe the intervention he needed at any point. Of course, when it comes to addiction, like anything, has to be a personal decision. But as you look through, it seems to be that the crown prince and princess, in addition to Marius's own father, were perhaps allowing some things to go on that maybe shouldn't have. So let's get into this whole story. And I did some of this research previously and now. And so this again is all, as far as I'm aware, pretty accurate. But I will also say as well, I kind of had to go to a lot of Norwegian sites, get a lot of things translated. And so there is a language barrier a bit here because, yes, this has been covered in some mainstream English outlets, but the vast majority of it has been in European outlets. So there is a bit of a language barrier here. So the incident occurred in the early morning hours of August 4th at an apartment registered to his current girlfriend, although she claims that she's not his girlfriend, who, according to CZECH Hor, it's SEOGHOR, is in her early 20s and maybe even just 20. Marius is 27. So that just gives you an idea of the ages. And obviously, I have like all this written down. So we're going through. So the incident occurred sometime between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. and included strangleholds and blows, according to reports per the young woman's lawyer. And then apparently, after this whole incident occurred, Marius then went on to party. Yeah, I was a little bit confused because again, translations can be an issue. So it could have been he partied before and then came home after, but my understanding is based on what I read is that he went to party after this incident. Apparently, according to reports, he destroyed her apartment. We do have some pictures here from Say Hor. Pronouncing that right. Sounds so weird. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then there are also reports that he verbally assaulted her on the phone, which is why we have these additional charges now, threatening to set her clothes and stuff on fire. After the party, he later went to his mother's home in Sakuum, which is personally owned by the royal family. So this is actually where King Harold and Queen Sonia lived when they were the crown prince and princess before moving to the palace. And so it was actually a friend of the girl, or maybe Marius, who notified the police on August 4th. So remember, the incident happened in the very early morning hours of August 4th. And so about 12:30, a friend called the police to let them know about this incident. And then at 1 o'clock, they arrived at the apartment. They investigated the scene, took evidence, including a knife that was apparently embedded in the wall. The victim was assessed at her apartment and received medical attention and did not go to the hospital as had been previously reported. She is currently on sick leave from her job, though she has asked for privacy from the press. Her lawyer has recently claimed that this was a one-off event, I believe. So that is what I wrote a couple weeks ago. I think that is still correct. But again, this is a changing situation, evolving. So Marius then surrendered to the authorities at Jansloka School, which is on the outskirts of Skaguum, where the crown princely couple has their home. So he grew up there, spent part of his childhood there. And so that is where he surrendered himself. Obviously, he went and talked to his family as well. It's also where he and his royal siblings went to school. His arrest was apparently calm and prearranged. He was released the next day after being held for almost 24 hours. So he is officially charged initially with bodily harm and property damage. Police have also stated in a press conference that those charges could be expanded, and they eventually were. So with about a week ago, I believe, he has now been charged with making threats and stealing a scooter. The threats charge was added after they analyzed the threatening voice message that he left for this particular young woman. The victim has released in a statement via her lawyer, advocate, which says she wants to avoid speculation in the case and also ask for calm to stand by the process that the case involves. For the sake of the investigation, she cannot elaborate on other information about physical injuries other than that she's on sick leave and has had medical supervision. She has not been admitted to the hospital, nor has she requested a restraining order. The parties are in dialogue. And so as the situation sort of unfolded, a former girlfriend, Julianne Sinskad, also claims that she was a victim of him, saying, "Yes, I have previously been subjected to psychological and physical violence by the person in question. Where the psychological violence was most where the psychological violence was most brutal for me." She also shared her support for the victim, who has not been publicly named yet, writing on Instagram, "I hope that the victim in the case gets the support and help she needs to get through this time." Another girlfriend has also come forward, and I believe in addition to her mother. Marius is now under investigation for the attacks against them as well, with both of the women having been questioned for hours by the police for possible domestic violence charges. So this would increase his potential prison time to up to 6 years. Though she originally shared her experience on social media, one of the girlfriends also apologized for not going to the police and said she was working with the police and will lean on their guidance going forward. Marius has also released a statement saying that he struggled for years with mental health and substance abuse issues, admitting that the incident was brought on by a combination of cocaine and alcohol. He says he is seeking treatment again. So his full statement reads as, "Last weekend, something happened that should have never have happened. I committed bodily harm and destroyed objects in an apartment in the intoxication of alcohol and cocaine after an argument. I have severe mental disorders, which mean that throughout my upbringing and adult life, I have and had and still have challenges. I have struggled with substance abuse for a long time, something I've been in treatment for in the past. I will now resume this treatment and take it very seriously. Drug use and my diagnoses do not excuse what happened in the apartment at Froger on the night of Sunday last weekend. I want to be responsible for what I have done and will explain myself truthfully to the police. For me, the most important thing is to say sorry to my girlfriend. She deserved neither what happened that night nor the extreme pressure from both the Norwegian and foreign press afterwards. Being pursued by photographers and journalists at the time like this, I know has been tough to stand in. I also want to apologize to my family. I know my actions in large passed over you. So to you, my love, I'm sorry. This should have never happened. And I took full responsibility for my actions." Again, a bit of confusing because she seems to want to distance whatever relationship she had with him while he's still calling her my love. So it's unclear kind of where this stands. They all have also met briefly on his parents' estate again. So apparently, I think it was in a car or something to that effect. After his arrest, his mother, the crown princess, was supposed to go to Paris with her husband, but had to delay. So this was during the Olympics. Crown Prince Haakon, who is Marius' stepfather, told the press, "As in all other families, it is important to be there. It is a serious matter when the police are involved. At the same time, it is not right to go into the details." In all cases, the palace is basically pointing the media to Borg Høiby's lawyer for further questions and any inquiries on the case. And the case continues to get sort of wild because Mette-Marit has allegedly reached out to the victim, which many people said was probably a pretty bad move. It was also supposed to be questioned this week, but this may not have happened. He is reportedly in Italy for a wedding, not his own, obviously, and his lawyers are trying to negotiate for him. Now, what's interesting about this particular case is that he has a diplomatic passport, and there are allegations or thoughts or concerns that he may have abused his access to the diplomatic passport to get out of certain situations. So, given that his mother and other family members are royals, the general thought is that he should only use this diplomatic passport when traveling with them, not to escape potential criminal prosecution, which he could have. According to Norwegian source, diplomatic passports are usually exempt from visa requirements, as it is assumed that a person traveling on a diplomatic passport is on business rather than traveling as a private individual. According to a source, the misuse of the diplomatic passport reinforces the impression that Borg Høiby, as a public figure and as part of a royal family, benefits from privileges that are not intended for personal use. And there are also thoughts that Marius, because of his situation, has started to think, especially because the media, I guess, wasn't reporting on everything they could have, made him start to think that he is above the law, abusing the diplomatic passport and his royal family connections to get out of particular situations. And the media sometimes didn't hold him to account. In fact, one media outlet seems to sort of imply, which I thought was a little bit odd, is that essentially maybe they contributed to this situation by not holding him to account the way he should have. I do have some thoughts about that. And so he does have this weird situation, though, where he is royal and he isn't. So when he turned 20, his mother wrote an open letter to the press, and she said, "He has always had a role that has been difficult to define in the public sphere. He is and will be an exceptionally important part of our family. Marius became a symbol of the unusual choice we made when we got married. At the same time, he should not carry public duties like his siblings. He should not have a public role and is not a public person, though he has sought out in some cases spotlight for himself and tends to date women who have some influence. Usually they're kind of influencer levels. And he has also stood on the palace balcony. It's also come out that he was under an investigation for the utility theft of a scooter. So apparently he didn't fully steal it. He like borrowed it without asking. It's just kind of essentially the thing. And so recently on August 26th, Haakon shared more about what was going on with NRK, saying this is a serious matter. Of course, it is important to us that those affected receive help and support and that they have good people around them. I really hope so. We are very close to him. So we knew what Marius told us and we knew about some of these problems, but I don't want to go into detail. Again, another journalist talking about how they knew about some of the happenings for years, but didn't publish it. He was also charged, Marius. I think I put arrested in my notes, but I think it's more like charged or cited or something for cocaine use at a festival in Christenland in 2017. So this is obviously troubling. And I want to say it off first because I know so many people on social media have made the connection between Marius and Harry. Incredibly different situations. I don't think it's appropriate to compare them. And the reason is that Marius is actually the oldest of his siblings. Harry is the younger of his two siblings. Marius is actually the oldest of his technically 4 siblings. So he has 3 half siblings at least, is my understanding. Marius was also never a working royal. Yes, he was in some of the official pictures with the royal family, like when he was a lot younger. Yes, he has spent time with them, but he is not royal and knew that was never going to be his path. In fact, when he was 20, he's like, I really don't want any part of this dog and pony show. And it was understandable. So he has separated himself. So Harry is very different in that he was actually a member of the royal family. He was born a prince. He was the younger of his siblings. And he was raised to be a working royal and was a very popular working royal. Again, Marius doesn't have any of that. But I will say Marius is also very different is that I can see how resentment and anger would build up in him because he has a tough position. He is the oldest, but he is not royal. His parents never actually were together. So they were never married. I don't even ever think engaged when he was in his early years before his mother married Crown Prince Haakon. So he never really had his parents together. He is basically sort of an outsider on both sides of his family in a way because his father married and had a family. His mother married and had a family. So he's really in this sort of weird divide where he's part of both and part of neither. He doesn't have another full-blood sibling. He only has half siblings. And part of his half siblings are incredibly important people to his country, whereas he is just a normal guy. And so I think, of course, that can build up resentment. That can build up anger. You also have the fact that his father was convicted of cocaine possession and his mother was involved in drugs in some form or another. And he was part of this royal family. He was actually pictured in 2000 as part of the official royal family pictures. And so he had this very weird kind of situation where he was there and he wasn't. He was part of it and he wasn't. But he wasn't part of it anywhere because he never really even had that home together with his parents to begin with. And so I think looking at him, you can see how that would be challenging. And again, you add royalty into the mix. This is not just that your mom married some wealthy guy. No. Your mom married the Crown Prince of Norway. Your step-grandfather is the King of Norway. Your parents are friends with all these royals. Like, the world that his siblings live in many ways, is exceptionally different from his own. Because royal spheres are so different than just being rich. Rich people would kill to be royalty because that is the ultimate social level is royalty. That's why it was so incredibly stupid for Harry and Meghan to leave the royal family and go back to Hollywood because Hollywood's like, well, at this point, anybody can be famous. You can be an influencer and be famous. But no, to be royalty, there's nothing in the world like it. And there's nothing like that influence. And so he has this weird separation and divide. And so I understand how that can be incredibly challenging for a young man growing up feeling like he belongs and he doesn't. Totally and completely get that. I think the Norwegian royal family was very, very welcoming. So I don't think that was necessarily a huge issue. And then we also have, which I thought was really interesting, is that he was very close to apparently Princess Martha Louise's husband, Ari Ben, who unfortunately ended his own life a couple of years ago in 2019. I believe he did it on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And so apparently This hit Marius really hard because Marius and Ari were kind of two birds of a feather. They didn't really fit in with the royal court. They didn't have a title and they never officially belonged to the royal family. This is according to like a Norwegian English news outlet. And so they were kind of between two worlds. And that's what I think Marius struggled with. Now, is the media in Norway to blame for maybe facilitating some of Marius's behavior by not holding to him account the way he should have? No, absolutely not. Why? Because that job belonged to his parents. And this is what's bad for Norway, or at least the Norwegian royal family going forward, is this makes Mette-Marit look bad. It does. It does. There's just no way around it. There's no way around it. She looks bad. She looks not only like she has an out of control child, but that she maybe even indulged his behavior for years. They were apparently aware of this for years and failed to really hold anything to account. Somebody said, and this was from Royal Dish, and they had this quote from Jacqueline Kennedy that says, "If you bungle raising your children, I don't think whatever else you do well matters very much." And although I'm not sure if that's entirely correct in terms of the phrasing, that is true. The way your children behave as adults is a reflection on your job as a parent. It is. It 100% is. And so when it comes to Marius in this particular situation, something happened. Yes, it was a situation, a wild situation with varying things going on, with having it like being an outsider on all sides of his family, essentially. He is kind of this lone little island in the sea. I get that. But it was his parents' job to help facilitate him and grow him in the proper direction. Whereas you could see right now and make the assumption he's spoiled and he has been out of control for a long time. Now, granted, he is an adult now, his parents can't handle him, but this stuff starts in childhood. Make no two bones about it. This started in childhood. And now it's grown into this thing where the royal family can't hide it anymore. I think they've probably been hiding his behavior for years. I think they have been hiding his trouble for years. And yes, people have trouble. And I'm not saying anybody's dirty laundry needs to be blasted on the front pages of news outlets. I don't think that's really healthy either. But what you got here is a situation where his behavior and his mother's raising of him is now negatively impacting the entirety of the Norwegian monarchy. And the same you could say goes back to Harold and Sonia. Something went weird there too, because you got Martha Louise, who, she's an odd duck, let's put it that way, who's marrying a crooked shaman, maybe we could say, in my opinion. And then on the other side here, you have Haakon, who married a woman who I think is very sweet. That I think they're actually very much in love. Him and his wife, she had a bit of a troubling past, and they seem to have done pretty well, but she's also been charged many times with, not charged in terms of any legal things, but it has been said that she doesn't work very much. Obviously, now she does actually have health issues, which does impact her ability to work, but it's been said many times that she doesn't really work that much. She's spent a lot of money going to find herself in East Asia. And so how helpful is she to the Norwegian people? It remains to be seen. And so this entire situation, again, is just incredibly sad, but also incredibly concerning, because this is what's happened. Because according to at least one report, the popularity of the royal family has taken a hit, falling from 81% in 2017 to 68% now. Now, that's about maybe a little bit more than a 15 points drop. That's still unbelievably significant. I don't even think the British royal family took such a hit with Harry and Meghan. Why? Because it looks like there is a lack of control. It looks like there are a lot of loose ends and threads here. And people want their royal families. They're not asking them to be perfect. But what they don't want is somebody who's abusing their privilege. And that's what it seems like Marius is doing. He's abusing his privilege, and his parents are indulging him in it. His parents aren't holding him to account. And this has spilled over. This has spilled over into something where you can't ignore it anymore. Where I think that royal family probably tried to shove it under the rug, and we're probably kind of sort of aware of it, hoping it would go away, hoping he would either mature, wake up, what have you. Well, he hasn't. And now the entire world is seeing this. This is not good. It's not good for Norway. It's not good for the family. And he needs help. Now, what's interesting is that apparently Norway is very focused on rehabilitation And so most likely he would get probably more mandatory rehab than he would jail. But although I've heard that Norwegian jails are pretty comfy cozy, but I think jail might actually be helpful for him. That's just my personal opinion. But this guy needs a wake up call. And obviously, going to Italy and going to a wedding kind of shows that he's not taking this super seriously and shows that his family's not maybe taking this as seriously as they should be. His mom looks like she's trying to interfere. He met with his alleged girlfriend or whatever on his parents' property when his mother was probably home. There's probably a lot of instances where there's a lot of backwards wheeling and dealing by the royals. And nobody likes this kind of stuff because it makes you look bad. It makes it look like you have this position of privilege and you're using it to escape accountability with the law. Now, I think this case will continue to grow over time, and I hope that he does get the help he needs. Now, I will say as well, I feel like we've seen this with Prince Harry too. Now, again, not really comparing them, but I don't always like this is not always the case, but sometimes I feel like people use, well, I have mental health issues to kind of escape accountability. No, you did this. You were drunk and high, and you did this. Is somebody holding you account for that? You can't just wipe it away and go, oh, I have mental health issues. That's why I need to get drunk and take cocaine. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. You need to figure yourself out. You need to figure yourself out. And blaming mental health issues is not going to be the solution to it. Yes, he may have a history of that because his father obviously was convicted of cocaine. And so there may be a history of addiction or predilection to addiction in his family, but that doesn't excuse his behavior either. And that's what I felt like he was somewhat trying to do, saying, yes, I did this, but oh, I have mental health issues. And I feel like Harry does the same thing. Oh, I got mental health issues. It's not an excuse. I feel like sometimes people do use this as an excuse. I can't do X because, oh, mental health issues. It's like, do you really, or do you just not want to do something? Just admit it. Just admit it. And that I think can help heal you rather than trying to blame everybody else. So, like I said, guys, this case is obviously incredibly serious. It will continue to grow and get, you could say, more complex over time. And so I just hope that he is able to get the help he needs. I hope his parents are able to figure out how to hold him to account. And I look forward to seeing where things go with Marius. And I hope he is able to be there to support his sister in just a peripheral way in the future. So, guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of Marius. Do you think he's going to get the help he needs, or is his problems going to be shoved under the rug again by his parents? Love to get your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you soon. Bye.